very important cultural information, it has to be said, and that's what I was discussing with Nuno about Sporting Lisbon's manager going to Manchester United, and they were saying a fond farewell at the ground the other evening. So we might come back to that. There have been other cultural events going on in the world, I believe, as well, which may get discussed, and we may get a Portuguese perspective on those as well tonight. So thanks everybody for being here. We are streaming live on YouTube. Great, that's working over there. Let's start with that Queen of the Visas then, Gilda. How are you this evening, Gilda?
Well, I'm fine. I still at the office today. Lots of work to do.
Especially more. Have there been lots of calls from America? Is that what's going on at the moment?
Yes, a lot.
Really?
A
So
lot of
a
calls, a lot of
notice.
emails.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. So there is a Trump effect, are we saying?
Yes, it is.
Okay, interesting. All right. They may ask that question to others as well this evening. And apart from that particular phenomenon, how about AIMA, Seth? What's happening in the offices of the government when it comes to processing?
Well, I'm is still a little bit slow and with problems. But according to the latest news today or yesterday, in fact, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is hiring more people to work on the consulates to try to speed up the visa process.
Very
So
good.
that's something.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a great trend actually, Gilda, aren't we? As we talk and have this conversation every week to just monitor.
Yes.
There does seem to be a steady improvement, so that's great news. Thank you very much for being here tonight. Anything else you want to say about?
Yes, actually, yes. I need to clarify something, and I think it's very important for you to know,
Yeah.
for all the audience to know, is that we all know that people had some problems because some visas didn't came out with appointments to IMA. And now these people are struggling to have an appointment, but it has been impossible. We write, we call, we make statements. It has been impossible. So the way that we found to sort this thing out is to put a court action
Wow.
to
Okay.
make IMA to give an appointment.
Mhm.
But of course that this was not foreseen on our side and neither from our client's perspective, because when we give the step plan and the budget, it's we are supposed that everything is going to happen according to the law.
Right.
What is happening is that clients are seeking us for help, and we have been trying to help them all way with all different ways that we can. But when it comes to the court action to have an appointment, we cannot. It cannot be included in the price. It's an extra fee that we have to charge,
Yeah.
and it's an extra fee that we didn't want to charge.
I
We
understand.
wish we couldn't charge,
Yeah.
but because of the all the responsibility involved with the courts and everything, and even because it must be, it has some work and hard work behind it. It needs to be an extra cost if you want to take this action. Of course, that you can still wait for vacancies to come out.
Interesting. Okay, so it's like good news and bad news. Yeah, I've got my visa, but I haven't got an
Yeah,
appointment. And to take the additional action that's required is going to be an extra cost now because that involves some work from your team. However, that is optional. You don't have to take the court action.
exactly.
Okay, great. Tom's asked.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to make this clear because there's been a bit of confusion. Clients are a bit annoyed, and I understand
Yeah.
when they are asked more money to take this action, but it's something that we could not foresee some months ago.
Okay. All
So
right.
I
Thank you
just
for that.
wanted to clarify this.
Yeah, thanks for doing that. Tom in Ohio, chilly and cloudy at 13 degrees centigrade. How often are D7 visas coming back without appointment? So how many of these would you say, would you estimate are in that condition?
Well, it's really random because I think the problem is that when a visa is approved in the consulate, it will depend if they give an appointment or not. If IMA at that moment has appointments or not.
Okay.
So it's really random, but I can say that most of the visas are still coming with appointments. So I would say 30% without appointments,
So is it
around
quite a
that.
good indication in a way that they do want to get them processed? But it's like part of the visa team says, yes, we want to give you a visa, and we're not going to hold it up by trying to
Yeah.
synchronize it with an appointment, but then it causes a problem later down the line. But thank you for clarifying that. Really helpful. I'm going to go girl, boy, because that's what I'm seeing on my screen tonight, introducing the dream team to you. It's Nunu next. Thanks, Gilda, for the time being.
You want.
Nunu, yes, you've had a fond farewell of the Sporting's manager. He's off to Man United. So it's been an emotional week for you. How's it been in the world of insurance?
Well, pretty steady, so no big news. Some concerns, the usual ones, so cyber, weather conditions, and healthcare costs, but pretty much stable. So no big news, no changes on no merges or acquisitions, so pretty stable.
Which is how we like it in the world of insurance. That's great news. The lack of news is great news in insurance. So thank you for that, Nuno. And of course, people can see your webinar presentation from last week over on Expats Portugal YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. Any questions about insurance, I can put them to Nuno this evening. And he always works hard behind the scenes on a direct message too. So he's available to you on that basis as well as he was with many of the team last week. So thanks for being here tonight, Nuno. And let's go to Peter Van Nunen, which can be a girl's name, can't it, Peter? But not on this occasion. It's Elise this evening. How are you? Welcome back.
Yes, I'm with the computer of Peter, by the way.
Right. Yes.
Mine was
Get
without
out.
battery.
And how are you this evening?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And I must share the same, do I say, opinion that after this week or after 2 days ago, some of clients that they were planning to move next year, they started to send emails or even we get calls to say, oh, maybe I have a friend that a friend they want to move as soon as possible.
Very interesting. Trump effect happening for you then at the Portugal company?
Yeah, I mean, I will believe, but because I think we need to wait 1 week at least because people are a little bit in shock or
Yes.
not.
Yes.
I must say, depending on the,
Of course.
I don't have any opinion about that here, but people are really reaching out to see, okay, what do we need to do? What do I want to do? And some of them, they were only planning to come next year and now they are starting, okay, let's go now.
Yeah, understood.
Get all the
Understood.
documentation and to make it happen. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Very good.
basic.
Okay. Thank you, Elise, for that. Anything else to report from the Portugal company?
No, for now, it's all good. I mean,
On nicely. Okay, very good.
yeah,
Well,
it's everything
do give
okay.
our best to Peter as well. Are
I
you
will.
urban or rural this evening?
I'm rural.
Rural, how lovely. Excellent stuff. Okay, wonderful. Good to see you tonight. Let's go. Yes, we're going girl boy, won't we? So let's go to Daniel. Daniel Reyes and Pelicano. How are you this evening, Daniel? Would you be
Hello,
getting, I
hello.
don't suppose you're getting a Trump effect in the world of law, are you, especially? Although you'll be keeping an eye on the politics, I guess,
We are golden visa clients that were waiting for the visas to be issued. Some of them wanted to sue AIMA to obtain their bookings, and yeah, we're having a Trump effect over here as well. So it is what it is. But
Interesting.
I must tell you one thing: if you call my football team Sporting Lisbon one more time, we're gonna have a problem. It's Sporting
Okay.
Portugal. It's
All right.
Sporting Portugal. Come on, man.
I'm so
Um,
sorry. I would like that to be known for the record this evening because, of course, Daniel is a top lawyer, and there's no point getting into any kind of disagreement with Daniel, is there? But this is a common mistake, is it not? In
Oh,
my
yes, it is. You
Yeah.
see it all over. When Sporting is playing outside of Portugal, they always call it Sporting of Lisbon. And I
Yeah.
don't understand the reason behind it. Well, it is from Lisbon, but the name of the club is Sporting Club of Portugal. And we jokingly say, well, it's the only club of Portugal because Benfica is a neighborhood and Porto is a city. So it's the only club that is from the full country, but well, outside of Portugal, that doesn't stick, does it?
I think that's a reprimand I'm never going to forget, quite frankly. Because I've been served.
Yes, yes, but there's a positive note or a positive thing that I would like to convey. Around a year and a half ago, give or take, the Portuguese government transformed the nationality procedures for lawyers, and we are able to deliver them online. And we are now seeing the results of that because the first processes that we submitted just came out, and it seems that they are expediting the Portuguese nationality processes really a lot. So the delivery of the processes via the web portal designated for the lawyers is coming to fruition because they are being delivered, or the result, the Portuguese nationality is being delivered way faster than it was on the normal delivery of the processes. So we are happy about that. That's a good news that I do have to convey. Nationality processes seem to be faster, and that's indeed a good news because the waiting was too long.
That's great. Thank you very much for that, Daniel. Good news tonight. Debbie saying, I'm getting hammered here with questions about moving to Portugal. There's a lot of people, Americans who've moved to Portugal. I suspect their friends will be asking them if they feel motivated to move right now. And Connie, thank you for your greeting. Hola, Carl, and Dream Team members from a beautiful warm day in Gaia. It's been a beautiful November day today, is it not, in Portugal? It's been absolutely beautiful. Continuing across the screen as I see it, Pedro is with us as well in Porto this evening. Good evening to you, Pedro Franco. How are you? Bitcoin has surged, has it not?
Yes, it's crazy. Good evening.
All-time high. Right, good evening to you, Benoit.
$76,000 and climbing, but all the stock markets because also it was announced the interest rates cuts by the Fed, and I think also the UK central bank also is going after this. So you see more liquidity, you see immediately assets going up.
Very good.
Bitcoin
Anything to report from your sector of
Yeah,
accounting?
today I'd like to bring a different topic about car imports
Oh,
taxes.
okay, excellent.
It might be of interest to some of you because this is something that changed with the budget for 2025. Is that I don't know if you know about this, probably not, but when you import a used car, the calculation of the import car taxes takes into account two components: the cylinder capacity of the car and the carbon emissions, so the environmental dimension of the car.
Mhm.
And this calculation takes also into account the age of the vehicle on these two dimensions. Okay, but until now, this calculation was only being made taking into account the age of the car on the cylinder dimension, but not on the emissions. This means that older cars, which it might be just a 5-year-old car, usually has higher emissions, and it was not taking into account the time of use of the car, the age of the car. But of January 1st, it will also take into account the age of the car in the emissions, meaning in conclusion that it will be less expensive to import cars, but from EU registrations. So it has to be from a EU member state.
And do I take it then from the 1st of January, Portugal are not going to cease taxing cars in the way that they have, which is against EU law? Nobody's anticipating any change with that?
Yeah, there has been a lot of litigation, and this change in the law is because of that. So
okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a compromise. Is that?
Yes, it's a harmonization of the law. I don't know if this is the right term in English, but according to the European legislation.
Interesting.
Portugal was not putting this into practice, and and now they have to. So this is a good news.
Right.
Yeah.
And finally, some might say, so that's good news. And so likely upshot of that is that the cost will be lower.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. And you used the word harmonization, not complete harmony yet, but
Yes.
an improvement. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Big
Thanks,
improvement.
Pedro.
Yeah.
Any other deadlines or anything else people should know about from the world of finance and taxation?
Well, really, just if you are one of those lucky persons who have enrolled in last year in any kind of scheduling of your interview with IMA or something like that, or if you have rented a house last year, you can still apply. You can still come to Portugal and still apply for the NHR until December. You
Good
just
point.
have to change your address until December.
Okay. Very good to know.
So last call.
Yes, I think we will get a few wake-up calls around that, won't we? And people, what? I can? Well, right, yeah, you're gonna. We may get some questions about that tonight. Then the mere mention of NHR often brings up a few questions, doesn't it? So thank you for that, Pedro. Good to see you this evening. Moving across my screen to Sarah now, and maybe you want to pick up the baton there, in line with what Pedro was saying about the Fed and interest rates. Sarah, good evening to you. Thanks for being here.
Boa noite.
Very good. Boa noite. Boa
Guys.
noite. Tudo bem?
Oh yeah, I mean it is all go. I mean, obviously the main thing is obviously that Trump did win the election. The team were available through the night, but a lot of people obviously were waiting to see. The rates didn't really move a lot in the beginning, but then once we knew that he'd won, we saw that the US dollar had strengthened. It strengthened by about 2% on the day, which, to put it in monetary terms, if you were buying 250,000 euros, that's nearly 6,000 euros difference in one day.
Wow.
We
Okay.
have seen a little bit of a movement back purely because then we had the interest rate announcements out today by the Fed, and they cut the interest rates by 25 basis points. So
Right.
usually when they cut interest rates, that can weaken the US dollar, because that's where we'd seen the strength over the last 2 years really is the Fed aggressively raising interest rates, which help the dollar. So at the moment, really, I suppose we're looking, you've got your short term, medium and long term. I think the key thing I say to people is obviously depending on your time frame is just get registered, speak to the team about your requirements and your time frames, because we really need to be just monitoring the rates very closely so that you
Yes.
can take advantage of any spikes, because as I said, the rate has moved back slightly. Although we're still at generally good levels if you're selling US dollars and buying euros. But there's lots to bear in mind. You know, Trump has always said that he wants to, you know, really have lower interest rates. So he might have a bit of a kind of influence. You might influence the Fed on that front. You know, it depends what policies he puts in place, tax cuts. You know, some of his higher tariffs that might actually impact inflation. So it might mean that the Fed can't cut interest rates. So again, we're just got to look at now, once he's in, what's the sort of things he puts in place, which could be positive or negative for the US dollar going forward.
And you'll be keeping an eye on that and able to converse with people about it who have Spartan accounts. Never too early to open one. And the details you need for doing that are on the screen next to Sarah there. And of course, it should be remembered that he's not won't be enacting any policy until January of next year. So there is a window, isn't there, in which to review.
But the thing to bear in mind is what's interesting is that it isn't always what's put in place that moves the market.
Yes,
It's sentiment. So
Yep.
you know, the Fed cut interest rates, but then they hold a speech afterwards. You know, it's what he's going to be maybe saying on the lead up to that.
Good
That's
point.
what the markets are kind of. You know, he might not have implemented it, but if he talks about it, then there's a high chance he will. The
Yeah.
markets might then price that in going forward on hearsay, essentially. It's not just physical data or actual, you know, elements and things that happen in the markets, or, you know, wars, natural disasters, all that sort of stuff as well. It is just sentiment, what people come out and say in speeches, whether it be from the ECB, the Fed, Trump. That's what the market's looking at as well.
Very interesting. Thank you for that point of order. I often jump to the wrong conclusions, don't I? Or say the wrong thing. Thank goodness you're here to me straight on those matters. Obviously, deal with the experts. Here they are, the dream team. And you can find them in the business directory of Expats Portugal and talk to them every Thursday evening between 9 and 10. Thanks for being here, Sarah. And of course, you'll take any other questions on currency exchange, either by DM in the chat if people prefer to do that, or I can ask the question for you live on this dream team session. Thank you for being here. Did I see Carolina is here as well? Yes, of course. Carolina Moralia, how are you?
I thought you forgot about me.
Never, never. How are you this evening?
How are you?
Yes, really good, really good. Thank you. I do have a little place I want to talk to you about. Oh, I think, have you muted again?
No. It's my
Got to sneeze.
no. It's Cookie who's barking, and I'm alone. Sorry.
Oh, don't worry. No, it's fine. We've had lots of dogs. My dog's broke into the studio. Cookie's fine. Does she need to sit on your lap? Is that what we need to do here?
Sorry.
Does she need to sit on your lap?
Neighbors pass the door, and she goes crazy and barks a lot. I'm so sorry.
You don't really. You no faz mal. It really is not a problem. You're so good on that mute button that we've not heard anything so far. So good evening to Carolina and to Cookie this evening, joining us on the webinar. Not a problem. Don't worry about it. People are very accepting of pets here. We were talking about dogs in the last session, so no problem at all. What's new in your world at Casa Portuguesa?
Everything is calm. I believe with the Trump winning, things will get more busy. And I'm finding that clients really love Lady. Lady is becoming like a very hot spot.
You know, I always ask you, don't I, about places. So, Leria, very interesting to see that trend. I was in Fundão at the weekend, at the home of the Portuguese cherry, and it happened to be market day on Monday. What a lovely place Fundão is. A little bit different, it has to be said. Not like a lot of other Portuguese places. It has a very unique character. Do you ever send people to Fundão or Castelo Branco?
It's not a destiny people usually choose. They're more like, now Óbidos is becoming a little trendy.
Okay, all right. So you're bringing us back towards the Silver Coast, Leiria City, of course, because it's a district as well as a city, isn't it? So Leiria.
Yeah, I meant Leiria as a district. Sorry.
Oh, not as a city. Okay, very, very good. All right. And yeah, because the Silver Coast is included in. I live in Leiria, and I'm here over on the coast, which people could perhaps make note of. It's not just the city; it is this whole district, which actually goes right over to Pedrogo Grande. It goes right into central, doesn't it, Leiria, as well? Okay, so that's a bit of a hot spot at the moment. Any questions about where to rent or buy and how Casa Portuguesa can help you? Tonight we've got Carolina and Cookie with us helping in the background as well, keeping any baddies away at the door there by the sound of it. Thanks, Carolina. Thanks for being here this evening. Right, let's get to the questions now. And we've got over here on Zoom for the Expats Portugal members here. Well, a few comments for sure. We applied for the golden visa in 2022 because we wanted a panic country. That's an interesting escalation of the panic room idea, isn't it? That there would be panic countries that people would run to. And it would appear that it includes Portugal as well. Pedro, thank you for being here tonight in this session as well as the earlier webinar. Debbie, I think, is helping a lot of people with inquiries about Portugal. And Farouk, let's go to a question. In one of the recent webinars, Daniel mentioned, okay, this sounds like it's for you, Daniel, mentioned that the 2021 backlog at AIMA had been cleared for the golden visas due to delays. Some individuals are going to other countries instead. That's an interesting point. Is Daniel including D7 visas as part of these golden visas? And you might want to comment as well there, Gilda.
No, I was just mentioning the golden visa applicants.
Yep.
Well, because the main difference between golden visas and any other types of visas is that you don't need to stay in Portugal and you don't need to be a tax resident here. That's why it's a good idea if you want to still run your business abroad in South Africa, US, or any other country, to eventually consider the golden visa if you don't want to move full-time to Portugal. All the clients that want to move full-time to Portugal, what I just usually convey is that a D7 or a D8 or any other type of visa is the best scenario that they can have. So I don't work with D7s. Gilda may have some input with that, but as for the golden visas, is the rule is that, well, clients do want an expedited process, and if they see that the process does take too long, they may move to another regions unless they really wish to to connect with Portugal and to have a Portuguese passport. That may do the difference. But I've noticed that in the field that a few clients just said, well, we want this faster, and the timelines that you are conveying are unfortunately not sufficient to us. So I'm a bit hopeful that with this new guy running the show in EMA, he promised that the backlog will be resolved until June 2025. I'm hopeful that he is including golden visas in his assessment, because that would attract more people to Portugal or more investors to Portugal, even considering the new golden visa spectrum that is mainly targeted for investment funds. So anything that would resolve the backlog, I think it would be quite interesting for Portugal, and interesting for investing in Portugal, and for foreigners to consider investing in Portugal, especially if they want to obtain a backup plan, as you said, a residency permit that would allow them to leave their own country and come to Portugal on moments. Because if you see, for instance, a South African client, he needs a Schengen visa to enter Portugal. He cannot enter Portugal freely, and if something goes south in their own country, Portugal is seen as a backup plan, because they'll have the residency permit for him and for the family, and then could just get in a plane and move all their lives to Portugal if something went wrong. And at the end of the process, then they can then obtain the Portuguese nationality. So I think that there's still room for the golden visas for a specific type of client, and that client is people that don't want to move full-time to the country, but nonetheless wish to have a backup plan, or wish to obtain the Portuguese passport down the line, if they of course do learn Portuguese, because that's still mandatory either with a golden visa or any other type of residency permit. You will always need to learn Portuguese.
Thank you very much for that, Daniel. And do you think that will always be the case? Because I think some people live in hope, don't they, that will change, and that
I hope not. To be frank and honest,
yes,
the criteria that we have to obtain Portuguese nationality, they're low. It's just 5 years of residency.
they are generous. Yeah.
You don't need to be convicted on you must not be convicted of any crimes. Well, the only criteria is indeed learn the language. So I don't agree if they do take the language criteria out to obtain the Portuguese citizenship, because if you do compare our criteria to other countries, our criteria is not that substantial or massive. You need to do the effort of learning the language, and I think that's a minimum to carry a passport.
Fair point. Fair point. But we still see that, don't we? Those people living in hope and wanting to avoid that, because the last rumor we had was people over 70 don't need to learn that. There are these funny rumors, aren't there, that spread around. It was an age-based.
Well, that's not actually a rumor. There's a rule that if you are a person that was you didn't go to school and you're above 70, you can waive the Portuguese language test. But
yes.
This is for people that lived quite a long time in Portugal, and they had not the possibility of going to school. But nonetheless, they do deserve the Portuguese passport. So it's not just you're 70, then you get a pass on the Portuguese language test.
I think that actual law was taken into social media and changed a little bit. Basically, that's what happened.
That happens.
That happens. It does happen. Thanks, Daniel, for that comprehensive answer for Farouk there. And Gilda, you might want to pick up on this part 2 of this question. Does the delay also apply to applications for a D7 visa at a consulate? I mean, just generally speaking, we are facing delays, aren't we? We're not working at optimal levels. So I guess for Farouk, what would you say, Gilda? Yes, it's delayed. The processes are delayed, and IMA are doing their best to remove the backlog.
Yes, but it's much better than the golden visa. You cannot compare. Why? Because if you apply for a visa, the visa is going to be analyzed and granted by a consulate. So it's not dependent on IMA in the first instance. So yes, the D7 is still faster, but as Daniel said, if you do want to move and live in Portugal.
Yes, very good. Okay. And the Golden Visa Classic, as we know it, is no longer available, but there was a webinar last night where Holborn Assets can help you access the latest iteration of the Golden Visa and that possibility for Portugal. Let's stay with you, Gilda. During last summer, Gilda mentioned, Farouk takes notes, I see. Gilda mentioned consulates in Brazil, US, and Canada had been authorized with additional staff due to high volume of applications. Are the applications in Canada being processed reasonably fast now? So can we have an update from your anecdotal experience of dealing with Canada? Do you see things moving faster, more efficiently there?
No, because there are more demands.
Okay, all right. So any extra staff they may have taken on have just been consumed. That effort has been consumed
Yes,
to a higher volume.
but it's taking around 2 to 3 months.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Hopefully useful to you, Farouk. If not, you know where we are. Do ask more questions in the chat there. Denise, I think, is also encouraged by that news from you, Daniel, earlier on. That's good to see for you, Denise, having been with you in this process for some time now. Question for Pedro from Derek. Could we talk about car importation a little bit more? I have an English registered V12 classic car from 1983 and a 4-cylinder. These are beautiful sounding cars, Derek. 4-cylinder 1964 classic I wish to import before April the 5th of 2025. What are you suggesting to Derek here, Pedro, in the chat?
Well, these kind of cars that are very classic cars, it's different because they are a little bit how do you say, in disadvantage to recent cars.
Yes.
Because their cylinders and their emissions are quite different, and they pay huge taxes on imports to Portugal. And besides that, these cars don't have the certificate within the EU, which doesn't make the same rules for calculating the import duties on the car.
Mm.
So these cars are more in disadvantage. Of course, we can calculate. We can if Derek will give me the details of the car, he can contact me. And
Yes.
we can make an estimation of the duties and the VAT and all the taxes that will be incurred in importing this type of car to Portugal.
Yeah.
And he can make this decision. But what I understand from many collectors is that they prefer to keep their cars unregistered and as collectors' cars. If they don't want to use them on the streets, they just collect them for the purpose of a collection for investment.
Yes.
And it's not worth paying the fat taxes in Portugal.
Make it roadworthy. I see what you're saying. So you would tow it if you were taking it around the country to show at fairs. You would be towing it on a trailer and showing it as a museum piece rather than as a roadworthy, useful vehicle.
Absolutely, because the costs are so high that one thinks is it worth it? Unless you really love the car and you want to drive it frequently, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, I would advise to keep the car in a garage. And
I think that is the key issue here. I imagine a lot of vintage car owners can see themselves driving the N2 or through the vineyards of the Douro and want to find out how much that might actually cost them. And then they snap out of that dream as soon as they find out how much it costs. But some still want to do it, and that's fair enough. So what I suggest, Eric, maybe drop Pedro a line and maybe copy in Jerry, because Jerry often has a lot to add to these conversations as well, right, Jerry?
Yes. Pedro, I thought there were some exemptions for classic cars if they reach a certain age and a certain status.
There are, but still the invoice is heavy.
It still can be heavy. Yeah.
It still can be heavy. Yes.
Well, yes, I'd be happy to try and assist on that as well. I think I might have a few other sort of suggestions to add to that.
It's an interesting exercise. We can do it with one example. Just to have an idea of how much it would cost to bring one of these.
I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Actually running the numbers on the dream vehicle is quite important for people to say, well, absolutely not, or well, okay, maybe with that. So there you go, Derek. Drop both Pedro and Jerry a line on that, and maybe Debbie, you want to do the same with your your prized MX-5 as well, which is a very beautiful vehicle too, as well. So maybe
that's a bit tougher because it's manufactured to American standards, and the American standards will require further matriculation than a European car would. So that could become quite a difficult one.
Yes, and a car that is made for Europe.
But we can certainly look at it for you, Debbie, but don't hold your breath on that one.
No, and as I think you've pointed out there, Pedro, it might be easier, cheaper to get one from Europe rather than bring one over from the United States there.
Yeah,
So.
they're very affordable, and the taxes are very low because it's a 1.5 cylinder car.
Yes.
Cubic cylinders, and the emissions are not high.
Yeah.
So, and because this car is like 12 or 13 years old, the depreciation on the taxes, so because of the age of the car is taking into consideration to the calculation of the taxes, it will be very cheap, like something like 400 euros on taxes to bring the car. So
yeah. But it's very interesting, and it might be that a few Expats Portugal members buy an MX-5 convertible between them and borrow it in a carpool to drive around that Douro scenario that I described. How about that? Why? Because it's the car that's insured, not the person, as Nuno will, I'm sure, have a comment on. Can I bring you? Thank you for the time being, Pedro. And Nuno, can I bring you in? You've mentioned insurance, tailored travel, incoming insurance. Tell us more about that, if you will. That sounds like some interesting news.
Yeah. So no, it's
a reiteration. I think. Yes. Go ahead.
Yes. So yes, there is some confusion about what is the requirement because some people refer to this to a travel health insurance, or is travel or is health, and the requirement for the first stage, so to get the visa, so the appointment with the VFS office, consulate or embassy, is a travel incoming insurance that insures you among all Schengen area, not only in Portugal. So it's a specific travel insurance policy.
Right.
There are some providers, and in Portugal we have tailored one that fully complies with the Portuguese authorities' requirements. And by now we have almost 1,000 applicancies with 100% acceptance worldwide. So
very good. There you go. Thanks for mentioning that, Nuno. Much appreciated. And a question I missed earlier on, forgive me. I'm trying to find it in the Zoom. Zoom's definitely changed here, I'm sure. It looks different to me. They've had a bit of an update, which doesn't always go terribly well. Ah, here we go. Alan Chapman. Benoit, I'm processing the questions that we've got here over on Zoom. I'll do my best to get to you on YouTube, but you know what to do? You get priority if you come over here as an Expats Portugal member. Let's see if somebody wants to sign up tonight from YouTube over there. We will celebrate you live on air if you sign up this evening. Jerry, Astrid will be keeping an eye on that. Benoit, I moved from UK, says Alan, to Portugal August 23 with my Portuguese wife and kids around the time that CEF were disbanded. I'm thinking this is for you, Gilda. Have made several applications for an appointment for residency with AIMA, but no luck so far. Really feels like we're missing something. Any advice on next steps and what we should be aiming for? PS, have recently secured some remote consulting work, so need to sort tax, etc. ASAP. Well, you can talk to Pedro about that. But on a general point, Gilda, with this, you'll be aware of this, won't you? This is a common anxiety among people who've applied, and they think I'm missing something. There's something I should have done, and they just don't know. They're waiting, aren't they? It's sort of the black hole of visa application. What do you suggest to people, Gilda, in this condition? Are you still there?
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't understand the first part. It's waiting for the visa or for the appointment for the residency permit.
Have made several applications for an appointment for residency with AIMA, but no luck so far. The key point here really feels like we're missing something. And that might be not doing the process through EI would be one answer to that. But, for people who do find themselves in this difficulty, what else can they do? You can't keep badgering AIMA, can you?
The thing is, we have no answer for you because we are in the same boat.
Right.
And as I told in the beginning of this Dream Team session, the way out, unfortunately, has been this court process against IMO
Which
to make so that the court can make them to give you an appointment.
Yes, and that's an escalation which will get you heard if you choose to take that route. And EI can help you with that. I guess that's the best we can say to Alan, unless there's something we've missed with that, Alan, and we need a bit more information, or I've not understood your question correctly. But just let me know if that is in any way useful to you. And thank you, Gilda, for the time being on that. I think there's more talk about MX5s as well tonight. I definitely think a carpooled MX5 for driving around the beautiful parts of Portugal would be a great idea. With Expats Portugal decals on it, right, Jerry? A nice paint job on it, reflecting the corporate livery.
I'm not sure people would like a big cockerel on the side of an MX5, but you know, that might not suit the image.
That sounds a bit Top Gear. That sounds a bit Top Gear to me, doesn't it? Okay, yeah. All right. Well, back to the drawing board with that idea, and over to YouTube now. Let's see what's going on over at YouTube. And Osama's over there. Hi, guys. Hey, a milestone to celebrate. Fantastic. Finally got the D2 visa after 5 months of waiting and 10 months process. One question. Can I get the NIF by myself using my address back home? Then once getting a rent, just change the address. Is it possible to do that? Gilda, I think you'll take that, won't you?
Well, if you had the D2, you can't do it on your own.
Oh,
and I'm going to explain you why.
Right.
Because, well, you can do, but you must have someone that it's going to be your tax representative. You cannot do with your address in your home country. And why is that? Because I don't know what type of D2 visa you have, but any type of D2 visa, entrepreneur or freelancer, or if you are working for a company as a service provider, you are going to have a commitment with the Portuguese tax authorities. Therefore, you will need to have a tax representative. So no, the answer is no, you can't do it with your home address and then just change it to Portugal.
Okay, Osama, there you go. That's been clarified for you by Gilda there. And on that note, Derek, I think this is to Alan. Go to Gilda. She and her team did ours quickly, and now we're here in Lagos and loving it. Could not have done it on our own, and using Expats Portugal. Derek and Linda in Lagos. Thank you for that, for letting us know that. Derek, satisfied customers there. And Debbie, thank you for the picture of your MX-5. If anybody wants to buy a beautiful Mazda in Florida, I think it's only right that we get 20% of that deal, right, Jerry? But it's a beautiful car. Yeah, okay, 20%. Excellent. 20%. Staying with YouTube, good evening from Squire of the Shires over there. Evening, Squire Bonoit. The consulates are getting more help, but people can't get appointments, says Mr. S. Renewals are impossible. What are people supposed to do? I think we go back to you for that earlier answer, don't we, Gilda? Escalate.
Yeah, escalate, or if you want to wait a little more, I think that in the beginning of the year, things are going to get a little bit better. Also, if you need to travel home, we have been making this like this folder with an explanation why that you couldn't renew your residency permit, or that you don't have an appointment yet, and we need to prove that you tried to do it before and it's not your fault. And then, of course, we have our legal arguments so that you can leave the country and then enter into Portugal, but it needs to be a direct flight, because only Portugal knows the situation that is happening here. So many people ask me this question because they want to visit relatives. They need to go back to their home to sort some kind of problem. And we've been doing this, and so far we had no problems.
Okay, that's really good. And Mr. S does ask something along those lines. A friend travels to England to visit his daughter, and his residency permit is expired. Can he travel? perhaps on a direct flight and with that.
Yes, and with that explanation, with
But you
this
can prepare
statement, and
people
just
for-
yes.
Yeah, you can prepare people for travel of that kind, so you can
Mhm.
get a little bit of backup from Gilda and team there. Mr. S goes on to ask, can people apply for naturalization with an expired residency permit? Because it's not your fault, right? But can you enter into a naturalization process with an expired residency permit?
I'll jump into that one. No, you'll need to have a residency permit that is valid to do that. But the interesting caveat over here is that the Portuguese government has they've done a law that extends all the residency permits until the end of June of 2025. So I would say yes, because the government extended the law. But all the cases that we've been having on our law firm that have this challenge, our advice has been to just renew the card to avoid any problems with the nationality request. And this is because as the services take too long or take such a long time to assess the application, let's say that in a year and a half you would receive an answer that is a no. Well, it doesn't compensate to wait all that time and just receive a no and then need to restart the process. So our advice has been renew the residency card and then we can deliver the nationality application. But if we eventually, if one of these cases does occur, someone gets a no from the People's Registry in Portugal, I would say it can be fought off because of the law that is still in place until the end of June 2025. So we are just being cautious over here. But in reality, if the government has approved the law stating that all residency permits are valid until June 2025, the People's Registry will need to abide by that law. But as a cautionary measure, our advice is renew the residency card and then request a Portuguese nationality.
Thank you very much, Daniel. And we see that Alan is connected with Gilda. That's good work tonight. Well done, Alan, on that. Thank you for taking care of that, Gilda, behind the scenes. People are getting quite excited about Debbie's car as well. Who has a question? I think you wanted to mention some other things. It's like the Debbie moment that we're becoming used to. Debbie on the Dream Team, honorary Dream Team member. Debbie, do you want to ask these NHR questions yourself? Debbie on the Dream Team, everybody.
I'm just dreaming over here. I have two unrelated things to bring up, and one of them, and when I said, oh, everybody's asking about coming here, and then Astrid said, well, send them to Expats Portugal, and it was just a suggestion on because I only do Facebook. I don't really like Instagram or the other ones, but on any of your social media, I really need. I have a marketing degree, by the way, and I'm not looking for a job. If you would, in the next few days, every day, put a new post that is like, hey, thinking of moving out of the USA to Portugal, things that we can click share, because you know what? I use my phone for social media, and to type expats Portugal is a real pain in the ass. But if I have a great post from you, I click share and there it goes. And then I ask my friends, hey, reshare that. So just a social media
Thank you
suggestion.
for that. That's a freebie. That would have cost us thousands when you were in the business, right?
Now, my other thing is totally unrelated, but we brought up dogs in the earlier session, and I had forgotten that I was interviewed for an article about traveling internationally with your dog. And the author wrote to me today, and she's like, oh, I forgot to send this to you. So if you don't mind, I'd like to put the link to it in the chat. And if it's okay, I'd like to put it on the forum. And it's not specific to Portugal, but it is traveling with your dog. So if that's okay, I'm going to stick that in the chat.
And while we have you talking about that subject, how is it? Because this was something that was brought up in the last webinar, wasn't it? About how hotels, are they pet friendly? What's your general experience then as a dog owner in Portugal? How would you summarize that?
I've been a dog owner in many countries, not living in those countries, but traveling. It's not as bad as you think. I happen to like Booking.com, Airbnb, and sometimes Vrbo, but mostly Booking.com. But there are many other platforms, and they have filters, and you just put pet friendly, and then it will filter them down. Some of them have a dog fee, some don't. So then once I find one that I like the location, I like the price, I like the room, it's dog friendly, then I'll go to their website and see what their dog fee is. But, you know, I've been traveling with dogs for about 20 years now, and it's really pretty easy. You got to do a little extra work, but
I think you've mentioned before that people approach you with a dog. It's a great way of making friends in Portugal, isn't it? People do love to pet other people's dogs in the street and so on.
I have met more. Tomorrow, I'm having lunch with somebody who I met because we both have a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. We've become good friends.
Right.
And then another guy that lives up the street, he's got a Cavalier and he's my buddy, and he comes by and has coffee a couple of times a week. And I would not have met these people had I not had the dog, but I've met so many others. If I walk her around, for instance, I live in Coimbra, and our Alma shopping, and there's also a couple other malls in the country that permit dogs. So tomorrow, my friend and I are going to take our Cavaliers to Alma shopping, and I know everybody's going to want to pet them.
Cavalier meetup. It's actually the dogs that are having lunch then, isn't it? And the owners are just going along because they need to be there. Very good. Thank you, Debbie. You also had an NHR question. Did you want to put that as well?
Oh, well, actually, I got my answer from Pedro, and thank you very much. So, you know, I will contact you about that.
Do you mind saying what it was publicly? Because the NHR information is very precious. What was the subject?
I'm looking for, where did my questions go?
Yes, can I go through that, Debbie?
Yes. Thank you, Pedro. You do
It's
it.
also important. It's good that you brought up this question. For instance, the residency cards and the NHR, they do not depend on each other. So we can get the NHR regardless of our residency cards. So the tax residency is a concept completely different from the legal residency concept. Okay, so you can be a tax resident already, even without having a residency permit or a residency card. So it's important to understand these two differences when you approach Portugal. So always make sure that you try to understand the tax residency concepts so that you don't get caught up in this trap. Okay.
Very good. I'm glad you mentioned it, Debbie, and glad you picked that up, Pedro. Thank you.
So yes, you can apply for the NHR even though you don't have your residency cards, and you are eligible because you have the enrollment from last year. So that's one of the preconditions for this phase out of the NHR. So you are eligible. Yes.
Very good.
Congratulations, by the way.
Yes, well done, Debbie. And the car is causing quite a stir. You might have a successful sale before the end of the evening here. And Jerry needs the details to invoice you for the commission.
And then Pedro forgot to answer the third question, which was, can he help me with that? And he said yes.
Excellent. Of course he can. Yes, anything like that.
And his email is right there.
Very, very, very well done there. Very efficiently on the screen. Pedro.Flanco at emigrant.pt or .pt, as we say here in Portugal. Right. There's a shout out for Nuno as well from Derek. Thank you for that. And a further accolade coming in. Thanks, Debbie, as well, for your Debbie on the Dream Team moment. Very good. I don't know what you'll have for us for next week, but we shall make space for you again next week. I just got an email today from the consulate, says Wally, over on YouTube, that our D7 visas have been approved. EIA took care of us beautifully, and I recommend them to everyone. Thank you to everyone at A. If you could pass that on from Wally. We love you all. There you go. Amoteur there for you and the team there, and more Portuguese, because I might have made a mess of that one. Jose Cruz, I did see your earlier comments, and I do hear you, people who are sharing their feelings about the election result. You know what will happen if we talk more about that. We're running out of time as well, and it is difficult. But I do hear you, and I love your comment here, Jose Cruz, about you talking about the Portuguese people saying, "Can I pet your dog?" Which is "Posso fazer festas ao vosso cão," which translates literally into English, and it would be, "May I give your dog a party?" Is that right? Okay. And does it apply to people as well? Maybe.
Oh, it does start a party, let me tell you. Okay. I forget if I mentioned this when I talked about meeting people with the dogs 2 weeks ago, but just a quick story. So now I forget what I was going to say, but anyway.
Pet parties, petty parties.
Yeah, it's a petting party. And she just, and like the first person pets her and then people see that. And then before you know it, I've got a crowd. And my friend said, I just really need to put a bucket out there and busk with the dog.
That's a good idea, isn't it? Very good. Is that allowed, Daniel, or do you have to have a license in most cameras for that?
I think you can slip under the radar.
It's official. It's official from our law guy. Fantastic. Okay, we're into the last 5 minutes. Let's go to a cultural question. And I think we need a bit of light relief, don't we? Or a bit of stress management. Now, Ronaldo, Cristiano, number 7, is in the news. Let me see if I can find it, because he's invested quite heavily, I believe, in the paddle sport. He's definitely diversifying. I was in the hairdressers the other day, and I'm quite upset to report this, but the barber was saying that Cristiano Ronaldo's wife has invested heavily in the hair transplant business. Now, why they would be sharing that with me, I do not know, but they are diversifying their business interests. All right, Daniel, putting your fingers through your lustrous hair there. I saw that. Ronaldo buys a Lisbon paddle club. I want to ask you, at these times when the paddle and pickle are available, team, or is there another sport you'd recommend for people who want to let off a bit of steam or just want to make friends here in Portugal? Paddle, pickle, or something else? Let's go to you, Carolina. You probably get asked this when you're helping people to settle in their homes. Paddle, pickle, or something else for making friends and letting off a bit of stress on the court?
I believe paddle.
You're a paddle fan, are you?
Not as much. My boyfriend is more.
Okay, so paddle for you. And Cristiano is obviously going to have a massive effect on this market, isn't he? And have people probably going to paddle rather than pickle. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for being here. Casa Portuguesa, you very thoughtfully put your details in the chat if anybody needs those. And Leiria is the top tip from Carolina as a district, not just a city there. Sarah, paddle, pickle, or something else?
I haven't tried them yet. It's on the list. Paddle's on the list.
So you're going to do both and then see which you prefer of the two?
Exactly. So I've been trying some other sports, but yeah, definitely things with a team, I think, helps make friends.
Yeah.
I tell you what I've tried
It
recently.
actually makes enemies, I've heard as well, because it's highly competitive. So be careful working on that balance there.
I have tried, my friend's a personal trainer and works at a clinic in Lisbon, which is electrostimulation.
What?
You work out hooked up to a machine that gives out, I suppose.
I don't know what you're pointing to there. How are you hooked up exactly?
Like it plugged in, and then apparently for 25 minutes of a workout, it's like you've been to the gym for 4 hours.
That's disgusting in so many ways. I can't until I find out more. I don't think...
not for me. That's the perfect sport for me. I'm sorry, I have to disagree.
All right, so Gilda, you can put Gilda down. Maybe you can have a visit, like a spa day. And
I'll try that one for sure.
Okay, what's your answer then? Paddle, pickle, or this new electro thing?
Electro thing.
Electro thing all the way. That's a new. We need them in the business directory, obviously, Sarah. So if you could make the introduction, that would be fantastic. I have people flocking towards that. Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you, Gilda. Let's go to you, Elise. What would you say? Paddle, pickle? Do you play either of those or something else, sport-wise?
Electric, like Gilda says. I will be like her.
I wasn't expecting that. So there's a coach trip being organised to the electro thing. We don't even know what it is, but people are ready to be hooked up and to burn off a few calories with that. Thank you for being here. Love to Peter as well. Elise, thank you for being here tonight. Much appreciated. I haven't asked Daniel or Nunu, have we, on this? Paddle, pickle. It's probably going to be football, isn't it? What do you say, Nunu?
Well, I have a feeling that Daniel could join me to try to beat Carolina and Sarah on paddle.
Really?
So...
Yes. Okay. Hey, Jerry, Astrid, it sounds like the Expats Portugal Paddle Classic is coming together here.
Oh.
What do you think? Is it a tournament possibly? There we go. So paddle, but not
for pickleball, you think? For pickleball?
Paddle.
Paddle, it's different.
Pickle
is different, is it?
Yeah, pickle's not getting a look in tonight, which I'm surprised about. And it might be Cristiano's just going to kill off pickleball in this country with his support of the paddleball. But there we go. A possible doubles event there that Nunu's suggesting. So paddle for you then, Nunu.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All we need now is a manager and we'll be away.
And a convertible car to arrive in. So definitely bring it over, Debbie. Daniel, finally, I think we've asked everybody apart from you, paddle, pickle, or something else.
Well, if you want to deliver a good spectacle for YouTube, just do a paddle match between me, Nunu, and Sarah and Carolina, because that'll be something to see. I'm a bit uncoordinated, I would say, in sports. Played in group are not my best. So I would go for running. And if you are an expat in Lisbon, there's a lot of running clubs in the city that do organize in different days running activities. So consider joining one, because, well, you'll see the great landscapes of Lisbon. And even me, as someone that lived a big part of my life in Lisbon, I did discover different places inside the city that I've never visited with running clubs. So that's my advice.
That's interesting. Is that called hashing? Is that the same sort of thing where you run in groups around an area?
Yeah, you have a group that determines the pace. So you have several paces inside the group, like 3 or 4 different paces. No one gets left behind. So even if you're a slow runner, they will assist you and pick you up and motivate you. And you end up meeting different places in the city. So do consider that.
Very good. That's a great idea, Daniel. As is the tournament that you're suggesting. And Sarah, do you think it will be possible? And I'll definitely take the commentator's job on that. I'd love to do that. Can we play this sport and be hooked up to the electro machine at the same time? I'm not sure. Sarah's maybe already gone. Oh, okay. All right. If you could ask those questions for us, that'd be awesome.
Small steps, maybe.
All right. And KY says, looking for tennis players in Lisbon. I have a group. Let me know. That's great. So tennis players, maybe you could pop that into the Expats Portugal forum as well. We'd lovely to see a bit of sport action over there and people putting teams together. And who knows, there may be that Expats Portugal Paddle Classic challenge at some point. Great suggestion there, Nuno. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated. A couple of minutes over. Over to you, Astrid. What's happening?
Thank you, Carl. So next week at the 7:30, we have one of our dream team members who looks after mortgages here in Portugal, Jeremy. He's going to be running a webinar and updating anybody who's interested in getting finance for purchasing a home here in Portugal. So one not to be missed. And of course, same time, same place for the dream team session next Thursday at 9 o'clock.
Excellent. Muito obrigado. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening, or enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you again soon. Lovely job, Dream Team. Jerry.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
excellent.
you.
All right, sorry.